Charlie Kirk's parents blindsided as shocking Erika Kirk footage leaks. The internet didn't just react that night, it froze in terror before exploding into absolute chaos. One leaked clip. 23 seconds. And suddenly a family millions thought was untouchable was spiraling in public view. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't speculation. This was the kind of footage that makes your stomach drop before your brain can catch up. Because the moment people realized who was in the video, everything changed. Erika Kirk. Alone. Nervous. Glancing off camera like someone was standing just out of sight. And when the clip reached Charlie Kirk's parents, sources say the reaction was instant and violent. Not confusion. Not denial. Fury. The kind of fury that only erupts when a buried fear claws its way into the light. Within minutes, timelines detonated. Twitter turned feral. TikTok slowed the footage down to individual frames. Reddit lit up with theories so dark they felt forbidden to even type. People weren't asking if the clip was real anymore. They were asking why it existed at all. And the most chilling detail. Charlie knew about the footage long before his parents ever saw it. Which meant this wasn't just a leak. It was a secret he chose to keep. Behind closed doors, voices were raised. Phones were slammed. One question echoed through the house over and over again. What really happened that night? Because this video didn't just expose Erika. It exposed fractures, betrayals, and a shadow lurking far too close to the family. And just when everyone thought they understood the scandal, one sentence flipped everything upside down. I didn't have a choice. The clip didn't creep onto the internet. It crashed. 1 second there was noise, memes, politics, chaos as usual, and the next second everything stopped, because the name attached to the footage didn't belong to a random influencer, or a faceless scandal. It belonged to Erika Kirk. And the way she appeared in that video didn't look staged, didn't look confident, didn't look safe. The lighting was dim, the audio uneven, and her eyes kept darting to the side like she was waiting for permission to finish her sentences. At first, people laughed it off, calling it fake, calling it a deep fake, calling it clickbait. But the longer the clip looped, the quieter the jokes got. Because fear doesn't need words. Fear shows up in pauses. In shallow breaths. In the way someone keeps touching their wrist like they're trying to anchor themselves to reality. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Group chats erupted. Journalists texted sources they hadn't spoken to in years. Fan accounts went silent, then reappeared with frantic threads. And then the most dangerous detail surfaced. This footage wasn't new. It wasn't filmed yesterday. It had been sitting somewhere, waiting. And the person who knew that better than anyone was Charlie Kirk. When the video reached his parents, sources say the room went cold. Not loud. Not chaotic. Cold. Charlie's mother reportedly didn't blink through the entire clip. She watched it straight through, then watched it again, slower, like she was searching for something hidden between frames. When it ended, she didn't ask if it was real. She asked why it existed. That question landed heavier than any accusation. Because footage like that doesn't just happen. It's recorded. It's kept. It's released on purpose. Online, the narrative started splitting in two. One side accused Erika of hiding something. The other side insisted she looked terrified. TikTok creators slowed the clip down, pointing out the way her voice dropped at the end of sentences, the way her eyes shifted left every time she hesitated. Reddit users claimed the background matched a private location tied to the Kirk inner circle, not a public place, not a hotel, not a random apartment. Meanwhile, inside the Kirk home, the tension escalated fast. Calls went out to lawyers before sunrise. Advisors were looped in. Phones buzzed non-stop. And then the question that cracked everything open was asked. Did you know about this? Charlie didn't answer right away. That silence was louder than any denial. Because when he finally spoke, it wasn't to defend himself or Erika. It was to admit the truth. Yes. He knew. That admission detonated something deeper than anger. It felt like betrayal. Charlie's father reportedly slammed his hand on the table hard enough to shake the room, demanding to know how long. Charlie wouldn't say. His mother asked the question no one online was brave enough to ask yet. Why didn't you tell us? Charlie stared at the floor, jaw tight, and said something that made the air feel heavy. I didn't have a choice. That sentence didn't calm anyone down. It did the opposite. Because if Charlie Kirk didn't have a choice, then someone else did. And whoever that was had power. Real power. As the internet kept tearing the clip apart, something new emerged. A reflection. Faint. Easy to miss. In the corner of the frame, a shadow that shifted when Erika paused. Not her movement. Someone else's. Suddenly, the story flipped. Comment sections filled with the same question over and over. Who was in the room with her? A self-proclaimed insider dropped screenshots, claiming the footage was recorded during a private conversation that was never meant to be public. Another claimed Erika had begged for it not to be released. None of it was confirmed. All of it spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, Charlie's parents weren't thinking about hashtags. They were thinking about patterns. Months of unease. Moments they dismissed. The way Erika went quiet whenever certain people entered a room. The way Charlie grew distant, distracted, constantly on edge. When confronted again, Charlie finally cracked. He admitted the footage wasn't meant to expose Erika. It was meant to pressure him. That revelation hit harder than the clip itself. Because now this wasn't a scandal. It was leverage. Someone had something, and they were using it. Online, theories turned darker. Blackmail. Internal power struggles. A warning shot. And then came the detail that sent everything into overdrive. Charlie admitted someone warned him that if he spoke, Erika would be the first to suffer publicly. That's when his mother reportedly covered her mouth, realizing the footage wasn't a mistake. It was a threat. As dawn broke, the clip kept circulating, but the conversation shifted again when someone claimed to read Erika's lips. Do I really have to say it? That single line changed everything. Say what? For who? And why? Inside the house, Charlie's father demanded names. Charlie refused. His mother asked if it was Erika pulling the strings. Charlie shook his head slowly and said something that made both of them freeze. This didn't start with her. That was the moment the fear set in. Because if Erika wasn't the beginning, she was the middle. And whatever this was had been unfolding quietly, carefully, for a long time. Online investigators began connecting dots from the past year. Awkward interviews. Sudden schedule changes. Moments where Charlie looked visibly uncomfortable when certain topics came up. One viral thread claimed to identify the room in the footage as a space only a handful of people had access to. Another pointed out that Erika's body language matched someone being coached, not confessing. Inside the Kirk home, the pressure boiled over. Charlie finally admitted someone had instructed him to stay silent, to keep the footage hidden, to protect not just Erika, but the family. Protect them from what was never fully said. By the time the sun fully rose, the internet had stopped asking if the clip was real. The question was why it was released now. And who benefited? As Charlie's parents sat in stunned silence, the moment Charlie said it didn't start with her, the story mutated into something colder and far more calculated. Inside the house, the anger burned off and left fear in its place, the kind that tightens your chest, because it doesn't come from the internet, it comes from recognition. Charlie's parents weren't just reacting to a leaked clip anymore. They were replaying months of moments they brushed aside. The tension at dinners. The way Erika's voice dropped whenever a certain name was mentioned. The way Charlie suddenly stopped leaving his phone unattended, showing up to meetings exhausted, snapping at questions he used to laugh off. All of it snapped into alignment like a trap finally closing. Outside those walls, the internet went feral. Theories multiplied faster than they could be debunked. Someone claimed to recognize the room from a behind-the-scenes clip filmed months earlier. Another swore they saw a second camera reflected behind a stack of books. A TikTok breakdown with millions of views pointed out something chilling. The shadow in the corner didn't move randomly. It shifted when Erika hesitated, like a silent cue. That wasn't fear alone. That was compliance. And suddenly the narrative flipped completely. Erika wasn't hiding. She was being handled. Inside the Kirk home, Charlie finally admitted the truth in fragments, like each sentence was a confession he'd rehearsed and avoided 1,000 times. Someone had warned him. Not once. Repeatedly. If you speak, this gets worse. If you push back, she pays first. And the worst part wasn't the threat. It was how calmly it was delivered, like a business arrangement. His father demanded to know who would dare make that kind of move. Charlie swallowed hard and said something that made his mother's face drain of color. You've met them before. That sentence detonated harder than the leak itself. Because it ruled out outsiders. It ruled out trolls. It ruled out random enemies. This was someone inside the orbit. Someone trusted. Someone who knew schedules, routines, private rooms. Someone who could arrange a recording without raising alarms. Online, that revelation sent investigators into overdrive. Old photos resurfaced. Event footage was paused and zoomed. One figure kept appearing just behind Charlie at key moments, always avoiding the camera, always just out of focus. A name began circulating in whispers, never confirmed, never spoken loudly, but repeated often enough to feel dangerous. Meanwhile, Charlie's parents pressed him harder. Why now? Why release the clip at this exact moment? Charlie finally admitted what the internet was starting to suspect. This wasn't exposure. It escalated. He'd been given instructions. A statement he was supposed to make. Alliances he was supposed to cut. Narratives he was supposed to push. When he refused, the clip was released as a warning. Proof that silence could be broken at any time. Online, a supposed insider dropped screenshots, claiming this person didn't want money or apologies. They wanted obedience. As the day wore on, another detail surfaced that sent shockwaves through the entire situation. A longer version of the footage allegedly existed. Not confirmed, not released, but referenced in multiple fake but convincing leaks. In that version, Erika was crying. Saying she was scared. Saying she wanted out. Saying she couldn't trust anyone anymore. And most devastating of all, saying she knew what happened that night. That phrase detonated across platforms. What a night. What happened? And why would that knowledge make her dangerous? Inside the house, Charlie's mother reportedly asked the question everyone online was screaming. Did Erika see something? Charlie didn't answer immediately. That hesitation was enough. Because if Erika had witnessed something she shouldn't have, that explained everything. Why did she look trapped? Why the footage felt staged. Why Charlie was being controlled. She wasn't the scandal. She was the leverage. And whoever held that leverage wasn't improvising. They were executing a plan. As night fell, the internet's obsession turned surgical. People mapped timelines. Compared outfits. Noticed how Erika's behavior shifted dramatically after a specific event months earlier. One viral thread claimed she tried to distance herself quietly, only to be pulled back in. Another claimed Charlie became visibly fearful after a private meeting with the same shadowy figure. None of it was proven. All of it felt plausible enough to be terrifying. Inside the Kirk home, the pressure reached a breaking point when Charlie finally admitted there were more clips. Not just one. Multiple. Each designed to hit a different target. First, her. Then you. Then me. That sequence landed like a death sentence. His father reportedly staggered back, realizing this wasn't blackmail in the traditional sense. It was demolition. A step-by-step collapse of a family's credibility, reputation, and legacy. Online, commentators began using a new word. Orchestration. This wasn't a leak. It was a rollout. And the person behind it was patient. Then came the message. A single line sent directly to Charlie, later leaked by a so-called source close to the situation. You have 24 hours. Make the statement, or phase 2 begins. That screenshot detonated across Twitter, sparking panic and disbelief in equal measure. Inside the house, the air turned suffocating. Charlie's parents begged him to let them intervene. Lawyers. Public statements. Anything. Charlie shook his head. If they move now, it gets worse. The internet expected panic. What it got instead was hesitation. Suspicion. A slow turn. People started questioning why the leak felt so strategic. Why did it target Erika first? Why it appeared only after Charlie refused to comply with something unseen. Sympathy began creeping into spaces that were primed for outrage. And that shift mattered more than anyone realized. Because when Charlie finally posted, he didn't confess. He didn't deny. He warned. There are things happening behind the scenes the public deserves to know. Not now. Soon. That sentence changed the temperature of the entire story. It wasn't defensive. It was defiant. And within minutes, another message allegedly arrived. You think this protects you? Phase 2 is already in motion. The cliff edge appeared instantly. Because if Phase 1 shook the internet, Phase 2 wasn't meant to trend. It was meant to devastate. And somewhere, in the silence between posts and leaks, one question hovered, unanswered and terrifying. If the first clip was just a warning, what exactly was waiting to be released next? The moment Phase 2 was mentioned, the atmosphere shifted from scandal to survival. This was no longer about public perception or damage control. This was about a clock that had started ticking the second that first clip went live. Inside the Kirk home, silence stretched until it felt violent. Charlie's parents weren't arguing anymore. They weren't even asking questions. They were realizing, all at once, that they were inside a story someone else had been writing for years. Every private conversation. Every closed-door meeting. Every moment they assumed was safe. All of it suddenly felt exposed. Online, the reaction fractured in real time. The outrage didn't disappear, but it mutated. Commentators who had rushed to judgment slowed down. Legal analysts started asking why the leak felt choreographed. Media veterans pointed out how rare it was for footage like this to surface without immediate follow-ups, without full context, without a clear motive. The absence of chaos became its own red flag. And then the fake but convincing insider, like he misled his parents. Like the entire implosion was his fault. His mother broke down. His father finally lost his composure. Because this wasn't blackmail anymore. It was a character assassination at the deepest level. The kind you don't recover from because even the truth sounds like a lie afterward. Online, someone claiming to be close to the situation leaked a chilling detail. The person behind this didn't want Charlie silent. They wanted him to speak exactly the wrong way. To lash out. To deny is too hard. To say something reckless. Because the final clip only worked if Charlie looked guilty before it ever dropped. Suddenly, every post, every reaction, every word mattered. The internet wasn't just watching anymore. It was waiting for him to mess up. And then came the move nobody expected. Instead of disappearing, Charlie leaned in. Not with details. Not with accusations. With restraint. That single post, vague and controlled, rippled outward like a shockwave. Analysts dissected it. Fans debated it. Critics scoffed at it. But the puppet master saw it for what it was. A refusal to panic. A refusal to play the role assigned to him. And that hesitation cracked the plan, just enough to let doubt breathe. Behind the scenes, chaos intensified. According to insiders, legal teams were split on strategy. Some urged immediate exposure. Others warned that premature reveals could trigger the final drop. Erika reportedly went silent entirely, disappearing from public view, fueling even more speculation. Some claimed she was being protected. Others claimed she was being isolated. Every absence became a headline. Every rumor felt heavier than the last. Then, late at night, another alleged message surfaced. Not to Charlie. To someone close to the family. He thinks he's in control now. Let him enjoy it. The tone wasn't angry. It was amused. And that terrified everyone paying attention. Because anger is impulsive. Amusement is calculated. The implication was clear. This wasn't over. It was just adjusting. As days passed without a second leak, tension skyrocketed. Commentators warned that silence was strategic. That waiting allowed anticipation to rot into fear. People started re-watching the original clip, noticing new details. Erika's hands shaking. The way her voice cracked when she mentioned nothing at all. The shadow that never fully left the frame. What once looked like a scandal now looked like evidence of control. And public sentiment began to tilt in a way nobody predicted. Inside the Kirk home, a decision was forming. Not unanimous. Not easy. But inevitable. Charlie realized something crucial. If the final clip was designed to make it look like he caused the downfall, then the only way to survive was to stop protecting the wrong silence. His parents saw it too. The fear hadn't vanished, but it had changed shape. Fear of exposure was being replaced by fear of obedience. And obedience had already cost them too much. The internet sensed it before it happened. A shift. A tightening. Influencers stopped speculating and started waiting. Journalists held drafts they weren't publishing yet. The story wasn't peaking. It was coiling. And then, quietly, a new rumor began circulating. Not about footage. About testimony. About someone else stepping forward. Someone who had been in the room before Erika ever was. Someone who knew how long the cameras had been there. Nothing was confirmed. Everything felt imminent. Because this was never just about one leaked clip. It was about power, proximity, and the illusion of control. Someone believed they could collapse a family piece by piece without resistance. They believed fear would keep everyone compliant. But fear has a breaking point. And once it's crossed, silence stops being protection and starts being surrender. The world isn't waiting for another scandal anymore. It's waiting for a reckoning. And whether the next move comes as a leak, a statement, or something no one sees coming at all, one thing is undeniable. This story didn't end with Erika in that room. It didn't peak with the first clip. It hasn't even reached its most dangerous moment yet. Because when someone builds a downfall this carefully, they never expect the people inside it to stop playing their assigned roles. And that's exactly what just happened. If you've made it this far, understand something clearly. Walking away now means missing the moment this story flips on its head. This isn't the kind of situation where the truth trickles out gently. This is the kind that drops all at once, without warning, and by the time it does, everyone who wasn't paying attention will be scrambling to catch up. You are watching a real-time power struggle unfold, and every hour that passes changes the outcome. Right now, there are people behind the scenes deciding what gets exposed next, what stays hidden, and who takes the fall when the dust settles. There are clips that haven't surfaced, messages that haven't leaked, and decisions being made in silence that could rewrite everything you think you know.